Representative Janelle Bynum is here. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thanks for having me.
We appreciate your time. I know you're busy. You just now passed 100 days in office. How would you describe the experience so far?
It's been eye-opening, chaotic, feels a little like middle school, but you know, you have to use your college skills. It's a lot to navigate, but I think the residents of CD5 have kept me on track.
What do you consider your biggest accomplishment of the current congressional session?
Well, first, I mean, my very first bill, I was asked to join on a bill for small businesses in rural areas by a Republican colleague. So being regarded as someone who will work across the aisle, apparently my reputation preceded me.
That's a good thing, though, right? I mean, you want people to know that, for sure. In February, President Trump ordered 25% tariffs on imports from Canada and Mexico, 10% on China. As a U.S. rep and also a businesswoman, your reaction to the tariffs?
Well, we put forth a bill protecting families from Inflation Act, and that is supposed to give us raw, hard data on what exactly it will do to American businesses and American families. And the thing to note here is that in Oregon, we export to Asia, we export to Canada, we have grapes with our wines, we have commodities. I mean, we have a lot of international commerce, and it's really going to affect us.
For decades, the country's had lower tariffs than some other countries. The president says we've been taken advantage of, and he wants to level the playing field. He says there'll be some pain to go through before we see that. On Tuesday, April 15th, the White House said Trump was considering 10 trade deals. Do you see Americans benefiting from tariffs in any way?
Well, I think the administration's strategy has been to just throw something at the wall. And so it's, to me, beneficial for us to make sure that we have the data to support our decisions. The other thing I try to tell people as we're, trying to bring down the temperature, because it's pretty high right now, focus on the policy and not the person. The policy right now is willy-nilly. It's not going to help us as I see it being implemented, and we need to get the data, and we need to work in a bipartisan fashion to make sure that we're protecting Americans, but also advancing our economy and our status around the world.
Your counter to Trump's argument that tariffs will boost domestic manufacturing, bring in revenue, and restore fairness to global trading. What's your counter to that?
I can't really believe anything he says right now because he doesn't back it up with data. It's gut. And part of being a business person is having that gut feel, and so I understand why people might follow him. But the thing is, you need to have data and you need to have facts. And right now, the facts are suggesting that the markets are going up and down, they're unstable, and they're not able to reconcile anything positive out of this.
Tell me what you're hearing from your constituents regarding the federal programs and the cuts. I would imagine as you hold town halls, you're probably getting an earful.
We've had three really, really healthy feedback. They're concerned about Social Security, whether they're going to get their benefits, whether they're going to be on time, whether they have the people there to support them when they have questions. They're also concerned about Medicaid, its implementation, the health of our rural hospitals, the financial health in particular, and people's access to health care. And then they also have told me that they're getting information from different places. So, of course, people like you, but also YouTube, NPR, they're getting information and they want me to be in those places as well. So I tell them go to bynum.house.gov and they can sign up for my newsletter and get information directly from me.
The Trump folks say they're not going to touch Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid unless there's fraud or abuse. And you say?
Prove it. Like, have a plan, work out the plan, execute the plan. They have not generated very clear plans for the American people to follow, and for even us in Congress in the minority party to even discuss and take issue with or have a dialogue that is really healthy, I think, for a democracy. Again, throwing more things up against the wall and seeing what sticks.
President Trump and Elon Musk, of course, we're talking about DOGE now. They're going to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse, they say, in government. Do you believe there's as much waste and fraud as they say there is?
I don't know about the number. I will say that there is always, as a business person, there is always something that you can trim, always an innovative new way that you can do something. And so what I've said, even, as we talk about our own budgets here in Oregon, let's look inward and make sure that we're doing everything as efficiently as we can. The way they're implementing these cuts and the investigations, I think, is counter to democracy and it's counter to a healthy government.
Because I hear a lot of people and they say, well, I think there is some fat out there, but it's just the way you're going about it.
It's not the what, it's the how. Think of it. It's not the what, it's the how. So when you're looking for, waste, fraud, and abuse, you want to go in strategically, you want to go in and continue to keep the American public's trust. And right now, they've lost part of the country's trust. And they've been a bit brutal. Not a bit, I'm I'm being nice. They've been brutal at the way that people's jobs have been just hacked and the rug has been pulled from under them, and they've been strong civil servants.
I want to talk about the Protect Families from Inflation Act that you introduced. How will your bill help families out there?
So it's important for us to work with facts. A lot of, when I talked with Representative Bentz, he was like, I wish you guys would just stop, with the hair on fire stuff. I wish you just calm down a little. Well, this bill will help alleviate some of that anxiety because we're actually going to deal with facts. What are tariffs going to do to American families? What are they going to do to American businesses? Are we going to grow from that? Are we going to shrink our economy from that?
President Trump, of course, trying to eliminate diversity, equity, inclusion programs, or DEI. I want to get your thoughts on that.
DEI, especially in the state of Oregon, I have 4 children that have been through Oregon schools, K-12 and the university level, and I always ask, is Oregon producing the leaders that it needs to produce? And it doesn't matter what kind of special program you have. Are our kids educated? Can they read and write? Are we producing the workforce that we need for the future? Are we producing the social, political, and economic leaders that we have? I'm not wedded to an institution. I'm wedded to making sure that our kids have what they need to be the very best that we need them to be. And are we bridging talent with opportunity?
I want to talk about the Department of Education. There's been some dismantling of that department at this point. Of course, it's going to be up to Congress in the end to decide that. What do you see as the ramifications of defunding this program?
Well, for me, I'm a parent with a kid that has an IEP, and the challenges that I've had with the Oregon Department of Education, I feel like I don't have a backstop because the federal government has abandoned American families. We saw that families with kids with special needs were challenged during the pandemic. They weren't getting the services that they deserved and that they were entitled to. And now, as we take those issues up with the Department of Education here in Oregon, we don't have any help coming from the federal government, and they are the ones that are supposed to be our backstop. It's a real challenge, and I am not happy with the Oregon Department of Education.
I want to talk about the bipartisan bill that you're co-leading to fully fund special education. It's called the Idea Full Funding Act. How will that benefit kids who need the additional help?
It'll benefit all kids. So when a child is in the classroom, maybe they become dysregulated in some way, shape, or form, or maybe like they're left-handed and they need some occupational therapy to help them write better. When they have those supports, they become less dysregulated in the classroom. The teachers can teach. The teachers have the support that they need, and that child graduates college or career ready. So that's why I was saying about the DEI programs. They are nothing if you are not graduating young people that are ready for the workforce and ready to do the jobs that we have waiting for them.
Tell me why this bill is so important to you.
I've seen where, I've been in the IEP meetings where they've told me they're giving us, 2 hours of occupational therapy, and it was, we're going to talk to the teacher. There was no hands-on direct relationship between what we were getting to what the child needed. And that is because it is not fully funded at the federal level. It's not fully funded at the state level. The state provides a cap of about 11% of students. And it's probably in some areas, like in, I think, Sweet Home, it's probably 30% of the students. When we have epidemics like the opioid epidemic and methamphetamine epidemic, those kids come out with extra needs and they impact the community. So unless we're fully funding them for the services that they need, we're shortchanging them.
Give me your thoughts on the Oregon Department of Education.
My inside thought is that we need to focus on outcomes. And right now we're putting a lot of money, I can't tell you the exact number, but more than $1 is too much. We're putting in a lot of money for a department that I've had conversations with the director, and I still have not seen, for instance, the backlog of cases that parents have filed. I haven't seen that go down. I have a case that's 2 years old, at least, and no resolution. And I know that I'm not alone. And if you can't resolve a case, the kid is long gone out of that school or out of that classroom in 2 years. That's not okay. So again, we want to defend DEI, we want to defend, reducing services at the Department of Education. We as a country have to be focused on making sure that our economy is delivering for Americans, whether they're 2 years old or 22 years old. And education is the key. An educated populace can challenge its government. An educated populace can hold its leaders accountable. An educated populace can fend for itself. That's what we have to be driving towards. For me, that's non-negotiable.
When you say you have a case still waiting for 2 years, is that one of your constituents? Is that what you're talking about?
It's personal.
Okay.
So I'm speaking from experience. And I think that's one reason over the last 8 years that voters have consistently allowed me to be their leader, because I'm bringing this experience as a mother. I'm bringing this experience as a business person. I understand that government has to perform. Otherwise, people will lose faith.
Are people losing faith now? I mean, you've been in Congress, 100 days now? I mean, is that what you're seeing? Are you seeing folks who, or are they still hopeful?
They are very hopeful. I mean, it's an odd kind of hopeful, I will admit. But I think in times like these, it's an opportunity for us to look inward, reflect on what we're not doing well, and then turn out some of the best, whether it's litigation or whether it's new bills or whether it's new ideas, new ways of doing things to refresh our democracy. That, I think, is the most important thing to remember. I am eternally an optimist. I don't think you should have pessimists as your leaders. And, I give the example of Zoom. Like, the pandemic was horrible. Like, we were stuck at home. But we had something very novel and unique come out of that to help connect us. And now everybody can connect with people around the world in a video conference, whereas before you had to go to a special place just to have a video conference. I mean, that's pretty unique and that's pretty exciting. I think the engineering me gets excited about what's possible even in the midst of a storm.
Tell me the difference in being where you are now, U.S. House, versus the Oregon legislature.
Wow.
What are the big differences?
The Oregon legislature seemed more disciplined. The blocks of time that you have for a meeting and the transparency was a lot easier to follow. With Congress, because there's 60 state reps and 30 senators, and then now in Congress there are 435 of us in the House of Representatives and then 100 in the Senate. And even though it's one building, it's a long way over to the Senate side. So you don't see the Senate as much. And I would say it feels at times a little chaotic. Not a little. It's very chaotic.
I can only imagine just how wild
I
it
just
is.
sit and people watch some days, and I'm watching like who's talking with whom, what they're doing in the who's voting electronically, who votes, by hand, and then we have 1-minute speeches. I use them as speeches of protest, and you look and see who's talking about what's happening in their district and what things they're bringing up. I'm bringing up things that are really related to cost, jobs, and quality of life. Those are the 3 things that we're focused on. Some people are bringing up their basketball team won, they lost a soldier. They're doing things like that. So it is a very vibrant place.
Under the U.S. Constitution, there are 3 equal branches of government. House Republicans have been accused of ceding their power to the executive branch. Do you believe there's a point at all when the majority party will try and reclaim its power?
I've talked with Representative Bentz, and the first word he told me, this was a few weeks ago, he said he was ecstatic. So I don't know that I would categorize them as having yielded or ceded any power. I think they're right along with the program. One thing that is a challenge for me is that when we have so much money in politics, Citizens United, the threat of Elon Musk running another candidate against my colleagues, essentially, that is a real challenge. That's out there, and I think that remains to be a threat and is shaping our politics.
Democrat Representative Janelle Bynum is here. Are you happy to be back with beautiful weather?
Oh my gosh.
Back in town
I
in
love
Oregon?
Oregon so much.
It's nice,
Yes.
nice to have you back. Thanks
Thank
for being
you.
with us. Back with more after this.